It was just another typical evening on the road for me. As a truck driver, I've spent countless nights traveling across the country, often alone, except for the steady hum of my engine. That night, the darkness seemed particularly consuming, enveloping the road ahead and instilling a subtle unease in me. During this stretch of road, I noticed him, a lone figure standing by the roadside, thumb outstretched. He appeared harmless, a bit rugged perhaps, like someone accustomed to life's harder knocks. Deciding to offer a ride, I pulled over. "Thanks for stopping," he greeted with a slight grin as he climbed aboard. "I'm Tom." "No problem," I responded, aiming for friendly but casual. "I'm Mike. Where are you headed?" "Just trying to get as far away from here as possible," he replied, his laugh a bit nervous. As we drove, a sense of discomfort regarding Tom gradually crept in. His friendliness seemed genuine, yet an air of unease lingered about him. I tried dismissing it as my imagination, but it persisted as we covered more miles. Tom then started probing with personal questions about my family, my home. I kept my answers vague, feeling a growing discomfort with his prying. His behavior became more peculiar as time passed. He was fidgety, his gaze frequently darting towards a worn duffel bag at his feet. The curiosity about its contents began to gnaw at me. The unease escalated when Tom made an unsettling comment about my family, implying knowledge he shouldn't have. "Your kids are precious, aren't they?" he said in a low, ominous tone. "It would be a shame if something happened to them." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, wondering how he knew about my children. As we drove through the deepening night, Tom's fidgeting worsened. He kept glancing at the duffel bag, his anxiety palpable. His conversation turned to a recent string of unsolved murders in the area, his knowledge detailed and disturbing. I felt a chill, questioning his involvement and what danger I might be in. Desperate for an escape, I seized an opportunity when I spotted a rundown gas station ahead. Feeling a need to use the restroom, I pulled over, hoping Tom would stay in the truck. He agreed, though with a suspicious look. I rushed into the gas station, finding a grizzled older man behind the counter. Quickly, in a low voice, I explained my predicament and asked for help. "Listen, I need your help," I blurted out to the gas station attendant, urgency clear in my voice. "There's a man in my truck. I think he's dangerous. Can you call the police?" That attendant's eyes widened in alarm, but he nodded quickly and reached for the phone. While he made the call, I anxiously peered out the window. Tom, sitting in the truck, was growing visibly restless, his fingers drumming on the dashboard. My heart raced with anticipation and fear. The gas station's flickering lights added to the eeriness as I anxiously awaited the police. When I finally saw the police lights, relief washed over me. The officers quickly detained Tom, revealing he was a wanted criminal. The realization that I had narrowly escaped danger was chilling. Grateful for my safety, I climbed back into my truck, hands still shaking. This experience was a stark lesson in the dangers of trusting strangers. It would remain with me as a chilling reminder to trust my instincts and exercise caution, especially in isolated places. The memory of this sinister encounter would serve as a warning of the unseen dangers that can arise unexpectedly. Driving alone well past midnight, I found myself on a desolate stretch of highway. The only light came from my headlights and the occasional flicker of construction lights. The road, rough and under construction, was lined with orange cones and barriers. These created a narrow asphalt corridor, amplifying the sense of confinement and unease in the darkness. Ahead, a large truck with glowing red taillights appeared. Its presence was ominous in the night. Suddenly, the truck began to act erratically, accelerating and stopping without warning. Its brake lights flashed like a warning or threat on the dark, empty road. Concerned and frustrated by the truck's unpredictable movements, I slowed down to keep a safe distance. The truck's behavior made passing difficult, and I felt increasingly trapped. Deciding to confront the trucker, I pulled up alongside the vehicle. I rolled down my window, preparing to communicate with the driver, marking a significant escalation of the situation's tension. The trucker, a shadowy figure in the cabin, responded with a chilling glare. His eyes, barely visible, held a look of unbridled rage. Suddenly, the truck swerved violently, its massive body lurching towards my car. I jerked the steering wheel, narrowly avoiding a collision. My heart pounded, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The trucker was relentless, edging closer, his engine roaring like a beast in pursuit. I realized with horror that he was trying to force my car into the concrete barrier that bordered the highway. In a desperate bid for survival, I accelerated, my car's engine straining against the demand. The trucker matched my speed, his vehicle looming in my rearview mirror. I could almost feel the heat of his headlights, the rage emanating from his cabin. With a final, desperate maneuver, I swerved onto an exit ramp, my tires screeching in protest. I glanced back to see the trucker continuing down the highway, his brake lights disappearing into the night. Shaken, I pulled over, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The silence was deafening, starkly contrasting to the chaos I had just escaped. I sat there for an eternity, trying to calm my racing heart. The trucker's intentions were clear. He had meant to harm me, to cause a serious accident. The experience left me deeply unsettled. For weeks afterward, I avoided driving at night, haunted by the memory of that menacing truck and the malevolent intent behind the wheel. Once a symbol of freedom, the road had become a corridor of fear. On a humid afternoon in North Carolina, I was navigating the overgrown streets of a small, forgotten town. As a truck driver doing residential deliveries, I was tasked with dropping off a large package at a secluded house. The truck struggled under the package's weight, creating a tense atmosphere in the quiet, isolated town. I felt uneasy as I approached my destination, suggesting that this delivery would not be typical. The house stood out due to its dilapidated state. It looked old by the exterior and boarded up windows, signaling years of neglect. An older woman appeared as I arrived. She was trembling, and her eyes darted nervously. She insisted that I bring the package inside, her voice filled with an urgency that seemed unusual for such a simple request. Inside the house, the air was stale and heavy with the smell of mildew. Another odor, sickly sweet and unidentifiable, made me feel uneasy. The lighting was poor, with a flickering bulb barely illuminating the cluttered, dirty interior. The oppressive atmosphere inside the house heightened my sense of discomfort. The place felt more than neglected. It seemed to harbor secrets, adding to the foreboding building since my arrival. I was leaving the house after placing the parcel inside when a soft thud from the closet broke the silence, catching my attention. The woman's reaction to the sound was immediate. Her eyes widened in a way that suggested fear or maybe guilt. This change in her demeanor added to the tension in the room. Driven by concern and curiosity, I moved toward the closet. My heart raced as I reached for the closet door, the sense of foreboding growing with each step. Opening the closet, I was met with a horrifying scene. An unconscious person lay bound and gagged inside. Their skin was pale, almost ghostly, contrasting sharply with the dark bruises that covered their visible body. This sight sent a wave of panic through me. My heart pounded as the reality of the situation set in, urging me to act quickly. The woman's behavior shifted dramatically after I discovered the person in the closet. She became aggressive and wild, her eyes reflecting an unsettling intensity. She positioned herself in front of the door, effectively blocking my exit. This sudden change in her demeanor left me feeling trapped and overwhelmed. My mind raced, trying to find a way out of this surreal and frightening situation. Summoning a surge of adrenaline, I knew I had to escape. I pushed past the woman, ignoring her protests and aggressive stance. My escape from the house was frantic, driven by fear and an urgent need to get to safety. As I left the house, my thoughts were a blur, struggling to make sense of the surreal and terrifying events I had just experienced. I hurried back to my truck, locking the doors immediately. My heart raced, my hands shook as I drove non-stop to the next town. Wanting to be far from the house, I called the police once I felt safe, struggling to speak due to shock. In the weeks after, I couldn't forget the incident. The image of that bound person, the woman's wild eyes, and the smell of the house stayed with me. This left a deep impact, making me realize I couldn't be a delivery driver anymore.